So in March, I went to Guatemala for 10 days on a missions trip with my school. It was definitely a life-changing experience because it was my first time going out of the country without my family or any of my close friends. When we first got there, I was really scared and I was nervous about the work that we were going to do and thinking that I wasn't going to make an impact in this community that we worked in. And it was definitely a life-changing experience in the sense that it was different. It definitely opened my eyes up to the different cultures that we have around the world that I'm not exposed to. If I compared myself from before I left to now, definitely would say that I've changed. I've become more grateful to the things that I have. I'm trying to not take things for granted as much as I used to. I do believe that God has opened my eyes to the different cultures around the world and the different places that need help. I really do think that God put this opportunity in my life for a reason. A little bit of the process and my mind and my thoughts going through with this is I prayed a lot about it. It was definitely something that was always on my mind as soon as I heard about the opportunity to work in Guatemala. So I had two opportunities to go to Guatemala. With the youth group here at ICAC, they were having a trip to Guatemala right after school ended, but I did not go through with that one because I felt myself was not ready and spiritually mature enough to go on that trip. And I just felt unprepared going in, thinking that I would be going in there and going to Guatemala to help them at that time. And then after I thought and said okay, I'm not going to do this trip, another trip at my school opened up, which was the same thing in Guatemala. I prayed about that trip, and at that time I did feel spiritually mature to participate. I remember leading up to the trip, the different devotionals and the different verses I read every night, in some way they all had something to do with serving. I took that as a sign from God, and I really did think that He was speaking to me in that way. So I remember the verse that God really spoke to me with, and this was the night that I made my final decision to go on this trip with my school, and it was Isaiah 6 verse 8, and the verse says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am, send me.'" And that verse really spoke to me in the sense where He was telling me that I was ready to go on this trip, that it was time, and it was time for me to go out and to help people overseas. I remember that night I was so excited to really be able to show everyone else God's love. So a phrase that I really like to live by is radiate God's love. And that's really what I wanted to do when I was in Guatemala. I just wanted to show God's love to everyone I met. And to do that, I would just smile at people I saw in the streets, and I would say hello, hola, how's it going type thing. And everyone else was there was so welcoming and inviting. They all smiled back at us. And I remember every morning that we would go on our bus to the community. Our bus driver's name was Oscar, and he'd always welcome us, and he was always so happy whenever we got on the bus, and he would always be like, "Hola, it's good to see you today." And it was just a great way to start the day, especially going into a community that really needed help. It set the mood for everyone, and we all came into the community really happy. So a little bit about the community work that we did. So we worked in a community called 20 de Octubre, and we worked in the school there. So what we did in the school is in the morning we would sit in class with the little kids, and we would teach them English words that they can practice, remember, and they would teach us Spanish words, which is really fun too. And that community was also just so welcoming. They were so happy when they saw a bunch of Canadian kids hop off a bus and went to go help in their community, which was something that's also so welcoming to me. It's something that I've definitely tried to take back here to Canada, to be more welcoming to the people that I see and to just show God's love in some way. Yeah, so we worked in a community called 20 de Octubre, and we, again, as I said, we worked in the school. We built water towers because they did not have running water. The way that they would wash their hands is that they grab water from a bucket and that's what they'd use to wash their hands. They didn't have any running water. They couldn't flush their toilets, and the only toilets that they had in the community was at that school. So because of that water tower, they now have running water. They're able to flush their toilets and not have to worry about it anymore, which is amazing. And it's so rewarding to know that we were part of that in some way. We were part of helping this community. So another thing that we did there was we started to build the little kitchen. So in Guatemala, their snack time is called refa, and they would have this around 11, and they had nowhere to cook the meals and the snacks for the kids. So we started to build a little kitchen for them so that they would be able to make the kids snacks in their refa. Unfortunately, we were not able to finish the kitchen like we did the water tower, because the water tower was all finished, but we had a good majority of it done, and I'm still really proud of the work that we did, because it was definitely a lot of intense manual labor. We had to hand mix cement. We had to dump a bunch of the cement into the ground for foundation. We had to bend steel rods, and it was definitely a very labor intensive job, but it was rewarding to see the end result. And the last project that we were told to finish was painting the school. When we got there, it was only the outside of the school that was painted, and it wasn't even fully painted. It was about half painted, and there was 4 other classrooms that we had to finish painting too. Painting, again, like, even though it sounds like it's really easy, it wasn't. We had to work with 2 different types of paint. So they usually get a lot of flooding there. So we had to use 2 types of paints. We used an oil-based paint for the bottom layer to prevent any of the flooding to come into the school, and then we just did a regular acrylic for the rest of the school. And working with oil-based paint is really hard because it doesn't spread very well. So that was definitely the trickiest part of the whole thing, and it was hard to get everything done because it needed so many coats and so many layers to make it look good and make sure that it was effective to prevent any of the flooding. Fortunately for us, we were able to finish 3 out of 4 of the classrooms, which is really good. Our program coordinator, Nathan, and Peter did not think that we were going to be able to finish it, or finish that much of it. And we were all, again, we were happy with the results that we had. And I remember after each day of working, all the kids would come back and they'd play with us before we left. And I remember these girls, they grabbed my hand and pulled me toward their playground, and they taught me their version of cops and robbers, which was the cutest thing ever, because I could not understand what they were saying. But I eventually got the concept of the game, and we were playing until we had to leave, which was really fun. And again, language barrier was another big thing down there. Although we had a language barrier, it was still a fun time because we were still able to communicate in some way with a lot of hand gestures. I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to go down to Guatemala and work with these kids and work with this community and be able to expose myself in that way. So although I wasn't able to directly share the gospel with these kids and the people that I met in Guatemala, I'm so happy that I was able to radiate God's love in some way. And whether it be through saying hola through the streets, or smiling at people, or painting the houses or building in the community and school, in some way I was still able to show God's love to these people. And I really hope that I continue to have opportunities like this to be able to serve God in some shape, way, or form. Since a lot of you guys have supported me financially and spiritually, I just want to thank you, because this would not be possible without you guys. I'm thankful for everyone who has been praying for me since I left and before I left and while I was there in Guatemala. I'm grateful for you guys, and I just want to thank you, and I want to thank God again for this opportunity that I was able to go to Guatemala. So the rest of this video is just going to be just our journey in general in Guatemala, what we did there in Guatemala. And I want to say thank you again for supporting me. I really hope you guys enjoy.
We all know quite a number of people who have everything that it would take to be happy, and they are not happy because they want something else or they want more of the same. And we all know people who have lots of misfortune and they are deeply happy. They radiate happiness. Why? Because they're grateful.